Welcome to the World History 1 lecture series. At the end of each slide there will be a 10-second delay. Use this time to pause the presentation and complete your notes. When you are done, push play and you will move forward. This lecture will begin in 5 seconds. Welcome to the World History 1 and of course review on Islam, the medieval era, and the Renaissance. And we have reached again the end of the cycle of civilization. How do civilizations rebuild? We will review this by looking at Unit 8 and 9, that's Islam, the medieval era, and the Renaissance. That's topics 8.1 to 9.9, and we're going to add two non-traditional civilizations into the mix, Africa and the Americas. That's topics 10.1 and 10.3. With that said, go to the next slide. Today we review the essential issues related to Unit 8, Islam, and Unit 9, the medieval era and the Renaissance. Open your notes to Unit 8 and read along. If you see something that you do not understand, look back in your notes or find the lecture on the topic you need help with. We begin with Islamic origins, customs, and beliefs, topic 8.1, and we learn that Islam begins on the Arabian Peninsula in 610 CE. Let's find two landmarks. Here's Egypt and here's Mesopotamia. Islam is centered in the cities of Mecca and Medina, and we have two other important cities as well. They are Damascus and Jerusalem. Muhammad the Prophet is the founder of Islam, and let's take this moment to compare Islam to Christianity and Judaism. We have Jewish beliefs, Christian beliefs, and Islamic beliefs. Jews believe in one God, Christians believe in one God with Jesus as the Messiah, and Muslims believe in one God, Allah. Jews believe that Jesus is a person of historical significance. Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God and the Messiah, and Muslims believe that Jesus is a prophet. Jews follow the Torah, Christians follow the Old and New Testament, or the Bible. Muslims follow the Quran, which supersedes earlier revelations found in the Torah and the Bible. Jews believe in salvation through a just and moral life. Christians believe in salvation by following the teachings of Jesus. Muslims believe in both, salvation by following the 5 pillars of Islam and living a just life. Finally, all 3 religions represent a moral code of behavior. Speaking of the 5 pillars, the 5 pillars of Islam as set forth in the Quran are faith, prayer, alms to the poor, fasting during Ramadan, and going on the Hajj or pilgrimage to Mecca. Also remember that in Islam, slavery is not based on race. Instead, we treat slaves as humans and property. Go to the next slide. Next, we learned about Islamic expansion, topics 8.2 and 10.2, and Islamic achievements, topic 8.3. And we learned that the Islamic Empire expands throughout the Mediterranean basin and Africa via trade. Here's the Mediterranean basin, here's Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Byzantine Empire, and the Italian Peninsula. And we learned that Islam starts on the Arabian Peninsula and expands into the Middle East. The Persian Empire, North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, which is modern Spain, and the Byzantine Empire. As for Africa, we're going to talk about 4 non-traditional civilizations: Ghana, Mali, Songhai, and Zimbabwe. Ghana, we are in West Africa. We have the salt to gold trans-Saharan trade. We're near the Niger River, and the Ghana is the leader. In Mali, we're also in West Africa. We're also doing salt to gold. Now we're on the Niger River. Timbuktu is our important trading center, and Mansa Musa is our leader. Songhai is also in West Africa. We're also doing salt to gold. Now we're in the entire Niger River Valley, and this is the largest of these 3 civilizations. Zimbabwe is in East Africa. Now we're doing gold for food. Zimbabwe is between the Zambezi and Limpopo rivers, and we have rock art. But when it comes to Islam, these 4 civilizations are not the same. Ghana, Mali, and Songhai have Islam or animism, the local religion. Zimbabwe, it's Islam or slavery. Also, the Islamic Empire is short lived, and there is a split in who should control the religion. We had four caliphs who rule after Muhammad the Prophet dies. The last caliph, Ali, dies. Not that Ali. And then there is a split in Islam. The Shia believe the leader must trace their roots back to Ali, and the Sunni believe that they should pick their religious leader. Finally, there are three Islamic cultural contributions. In architecture, we have the Kaaba, the Dome of the Rock, mosques, and minarets. In art, writing, and education, we have mosaics, we have Arabic, the language, we have the oldest known universities, and we have books like Arabian Nights. And in science, we have Arabic numbers, that's what we use today. We have algebra, there's medicine, map making, and trade. Go to the next slide. The experience of people in the East is much different than the experience of people in Western Europe. So let's go to the Introduction to the Dark Ages, topic 9.1, and Christianity and Frankish Leaders, topic 9.2. We learned that the absence of the Roman Empire after 476 CE, you must know that date, 476 CE, leads to lack of cohesive unity, breakdown of law and order, economic turmoil, cultural decline, and a lack of institutional protection. Think of the movie The Purge. Western Europe is now a failed state, and this causes a lot of problems, like Germanic tribes invading Western Europe, and that includes the Goths, Franks, Vandals, Anglos, Saxons, and Bavarians. These tribes are not like the Romans. Because of this, the church is the only source of unity in Western Europe. It starts unorganized and then it becomes an organized power under Pope Leo III. There are three important people from the Dark Ages besides Pope Leo III. They are Clovis, Charles Martel, and Charlemagne. Clovis is the leader of the Franks. He unites the Frankish tribes and he converts the Franks to Christianity. Charles Martel leads the Franks against the Muslims, their Moors, at the Battle of Tours in France, and Charles Martel defeats the Muslims and stops them from taking over Europe. Without Charles Martel, the Muslims spread into Europe, and we have a much different history. Finally, we have Charlemagne. Charlemagne unites all of the Germanic tribes on mainland Europe, and he does it violently. Because of this, he is declared emperor of the Holy Roman Empire in 800 CE by Pope Leo III, this guy. And Charlemagne begins the recovery efforts in Western Europe. Go to the next slide. Unfortunately, Europe does not recover under Charlemagne, so now we have instability and feudal society. Topic 9.3. What happens? Charlemagne dies in 814 CE, which leads to a civil war and ends with the Treaty of Verdun that divides the Holy Roman Empire into parts. We split it up, and what happens because of that? Europe again becomes a failed state that suffers from multiple invasions from the Vikings, Magyars, and Muslims. There is no safe place to live in Europe, no matter who you are. So our landowners and everybody else need to figure out a way to stay safe, and they do. The feudal system overcomes these problems by addressing three issues. We have social issues, economic issues, and political issues. When it comes to social issues, we have a contract between the manor lord and serfs, and land is exchanged for protection. Economically, the lord grants fiefs to vassals and knights, and now the manor is self-sufficient. We call that manoralism, and politically, we have a rigid class structure, and we have a contract between the lord and serf that lasts for life. It looks like this. The manor lord is on top. He gives lands to vassals. The knights are his protectors, and the serfs are the protected ones who do all of the work. In exchange, the serfs give everything to the knights, who are tax collectors. The vassals take what they get, and they give everything else to the manor lord, who can ask for everybody to help protect the manor. Go to the next slide. The church is at the height of its power at this point in history, but that will not last long. So let's talk about Crusades and the Plague, topic 9.4, and Mongols in the Late Church, topic 9.5. There are 10 crusades, or Christian military campaigns, to take control of the Holy Land from Muslim occupation. We need to know 6 important events. Pope Urban II starts the Crusades at the Council of Clermont. That is how powerful the church has become at this point in history. They start a holy war. So, Christians capture Jerusalem in the First Crusade, and Crusader states are set up to maintain control of the Holy Land. That does not last. Saladin retakes Jerusalem. So, England's Richard I, or Richard the Lionheart, recaptures Jerusalem from Saladin in the Second Crusade. These are successful crusades. Not all crusades are successful. Christians sack Constantinople in the Fourth Crusade. That is not Christians versus Muslims, that's Christians versus Christians. The Crusades have consequences, and these consequences are not exactly what the church had in mind. The Crusades weaken the power of the church, increase the power of kings, and stimulate trade between Europe and the Middle East. So now we are moving out of the medieval era, but we have to deal with some things that are in the way. The bubonic plague spreads and kills a third of Europe's population. This changes centers of power and ends the feudal system. Also, the Mongol army, the Golden Horde, the same guys who invaded China. They are a horse based culture that invades Eastern Europe and weakens the Byzantine Empire to the point that the Byzantines fall to the Ottoman Turks. Finally, the late medieval church preserved knowledge and founded the first Western university in Bologna. That is in Italy. We are about to start the Renaissance. Go to the next slide. As we move farther away from the medieval era, we see the formation of European nation states, topic 9.6, and that's going to impact civilizations of the Americas, topic 10.3. There are 4 nation states that come out of the Middle Ages. So here's Europe, here's the Italian Peninsula, and we have England, France, Spain, and Russia. England is united by William the Conqueror at the Battle of Hastings. King Henry II brings about common law and jury trial. King John I ends a civil war by signing the Magna Carta and giving away some power of the monarchy. And then England loses the 100 Years' War to France, where we have Hugh Capet and the Capetian dynasty. They won the 100 Years' War, and Joan of Arc leads the French against the English. She pays for it with her life. She's burned at the stake. In Spain, they are united by Isabella and Ferdinand, who are going to make Spain a Christian nation. They do this by holding the Reconquista and the Inquisition. They also started the era of exploration with Christopher Columbus. More on that in a minute. Finally, we have Russia. The Mongol armies invade Russia, and then Ivan the Great, or Ivan the Terrible, expels the Mongols and becomes Tsar, and he is the one who puts the power in Moscow. Now, there are 3 civilizations in the Americas. Here is the Western Hemisphere, here is the United States of America, so you know where we are, and 2 of these civilizations are impacted by explorers in Spain. We have the Mayans. They're on Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. They are a rainforest civilization. They have a complex social structure and polytheistic religion, and their achievements include numbering and calendars. They have no European contact. We have the Aztecs. They're in the central Mexico plateau. They are an arid lake civilization. They too have a complex social structure and polytheistic religion. Their achievements include the city of Tenochtitlan and engineering. They are conquered by Cortez, who is Spanish. And finally, we have the Inca. They are a South American West Coast mountainous civilization. They have a complex social structure and polytheistic religion. Their achievements include Machu Picchu and a complex road system, and they are conquered by Pizarro, another Spanish conquistador. Go to the next slide. So, we have finally reached the beginning of the modern era, and we'll talk about the foundations of the Italian Renaissance. Topic 9.7. The Italian Renaissance, or Rebirth, was a cultural, scholarly, and socio political movement that stressed the rediscovery and application of text and thought from classical antiquity. In other words, the Renaissance is the rediscovery of things that come out of Greece and Rome. And this happens in Italy. Three Italian city states, Florence, Venice, and Genoa, are the focal point of the Renaissance. Here's why. Crusaders passed through these cities to reach the Holy Land, which makes these cities a focal point for trade, and they get really rich. In fact, wealthy merchants like the de' Medici family make money. The de Medicis are going to be very important. We also have new banking practices and accounting, which expand the amount of money in the economy, and the church regulates the banks. The church sent the Crusaders to the Middle East. They're going to make sure that the Crusaders do not get hurt by bankers in Italy. Finally, Renaissance culture and achievement will occur because of the economic and political support of wealthy patrons like the de' Medici family. There's Cosmo. He and his gang are going to be the driving force in the Renaissance. Go to the next slide. So many cool things come out of the Renaissance, and a lot of this stuff still impacts us in the world today. So let's talk about art and literature in the Italian Renaissance, topic 9.8, and the Northern Renaissance, topic 9.9. There are four Italian Renaissance accomplishments. They are in art, literature, sonnets, and humanism. With art, medieval art is different than Renaissance art. We are now focusing on the human form and 3D. So we have artists who include Da Vinci and Michelangelo, and we have techniques that include frescoes and sculpture. In literature, Dante writes the Divine Comedy and the Inferno in vernacular. He writes it in Italian, not in Latin, and Machiavelli writes The Prince to advise the de' Medici family about politics. When it comes to sonnets, a sonnet is a lyrical poem. Petrarch is a poem and is considered the father of humanism. More on that in a second. And Petrarch's sonnets celebrate the individual. Finally, we have humanism. That is a collection of philosophies and beliefs focusing on the person. And humanism is supported by Patron and leads to a Greek and Roman revival. Let's talk about the Northern Renaissance. The Northern Renaissance begins later than the Italian Renaissance and is found mainly in England, France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire, which will become modern Germany. It's not wealthy patrons driving this part of the Renaissance, it's monarchs. And there are three Northern Renaissance accomplishments. They are in books, literature, and education and the arts. With books, we have mass production of books, which leads to a rise in literacy. How do we have mass production? Gutenberg invents the movable type printing press, and the Gutenberg Bible is printed. We now have mass production of books. When it comes to literature, we have In Praise of Folly by Erasmus, we have Utopia by Sir Thomas More, and then we have this guy, Shakespeare, who writes multiple plays and sonnets. And finally, we have education and the arts. Modern universities include Oxford, Paris, and Salamanca. All three universities are with us today. These are also the forerunners of American universities, and Northern art is like Italian art. That's it for this lecture, and I look forward to seeing you in class.